Joining us live in studio is Dirk Visser, social media expert. Thapelo Nqehe is a monitoring and evaluation officer at the Center for Security and Violence and Reconciliation. You at home are most welcome to give us a call. 011-542-2186 or tweet at ANN7 TV or at I am Cindy Mabi. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us and good evening to you. Just your initial reaction to the video, considering that there's obviously a racial undertone in that. Thapelo, I'll start with you.
There are two things that we have to understand. If whether the video is racial or gendered. So I don't really think the matter is racial, but really gendered. And I think it is a matter of two adults who did not understand each other and they used their power to, or their influence. The issue is not racial because we do not know the contents of what was happening. So it is very difficult to even ascertain if whether the issue was racial or not, because we do not have facts that are backing us up.
Well, we saw a statement from Lebohang Mabuya, the woman in question, where she says the man, the protagonist, had called her an ape, etc. So with that in mind, that term in itself, can you then say it's gone, over just irrational behavior or that they were frustrated? This has now become racial. Dirk?
It's difficult in those sort of situations. When I first saw the video, I was completely shocked at the behavior of two adults in a child scuffle. And obviously in an argument like that, it's going to get heated and people are going to say a lot of things. And it's just, you got to call for cool heads in this sort of situation. It could probably have gone way more racial, but making statements like that, of course, is, inciting some sort of violence, which you should never, ever do. You know what I mean? So it probably started out sexist, and if it had continued, it would have blown over into a heavily racial argument. Well,
you would ask yourself if it was either black people involved exclusively or white people, whether the reaction would have been the same, because we're talking about children. And I mean, Spur being a family restaurant, I was sharing off air that at the Spur in Broad Acres a few years ago, a similar incident happened involving a black child and a white child, and the parents just completely lost it, obviously wanting to defend their children, as opposed to dealing with the behavior at the level of a child, reprimand the child regardless of what color they are, and move right along. Why do we fail to do that? Is it underlying anger, frustration bubbling in society? What is going on?
I think there's everybody's so tense at the moment, and I think there's a lot of stuff happening. If you look at socioeconomic situations in the country and worldwide, people are very uptight. People are under a lot of pressure. The recession has hit quite hard. And you're going to find that these sort of socioeconomic problems lend themselves back into an argument, for example, between Thapelo and myself, where he doesn't like white sneakers, and now suddenly, how dare you attack my style? You know what I'm saying?
But aren't we denying, though, that there is a real issue around racial intolerance, regardless of what the triggers are, and maybe the fact that we're harboring these prejudice that whenever an opportunity arises, then you see racism rear its head?
The history of South Africa is embedded with racism and apartheid, and we have to take that into consideration when we want to understand the reality of what is happening between black and white. So in order to understand our realities, we have to go back and to say what was happening. So this whole situation is perpetuated by our anxiety, our fears, our doubts, and our fears. We do have this phobia, and we are frustrated because of those socio-economic status that we are not privileged of. And there's that sense of entitlement that comes with that. So it's a matter of where do we go?
Yeah. All right. Let's take a caller, Lanky in Johannesburg, and Ian in Hammanskraal. We see you. Good evening, Lanky. And what's your comment or question?
Good evening, ma'am. I just want to say that, the unfortunate incident that we've just seen unraveling now, it's, indicative of the problems that people are walking around wounded, but also the emotional immaturity of both parents, because they should have been adults enough to encourage the kids to forgive each other and continue playing instead of doing what we've just seen happening. As for people accusing the waiters for not doing anything, I normally frequent Spurs, and most of the employees there are foreign, most of them Zimbabweans, and you find much as they want to help, they are very helpless in that situation, especially if there's a white dominant man or, who's becoming aggressive. They feel helpless because there's so much that they, so little that they can do in that situation. It's very, very unfortunate that both of them were irresponsible because there were kids there and they continued screaming as if the kids' lives don't matter. All that was required was for the two adults to actually encourage the kids to continue playing and saying, you were playing. Kids are like that. They come on each other, somebody's crying. The first reaction is to become, accusatory to say, you had done this to my kid. But as they are playing, they need to know that they're bound to bump, against each other or anything. And the responsible thing to do is to encourage the kids to say sorry to, Johnny, say sorry to Langi, and then they continue playing. And the parents have to just stand back and allow the kids to learn how to resolve the situation.
Words of wisdom, Lanki. Thanks so much. Lanki calling us from Johannesburg, saying we're generally a wounded society, and this is demonstrated in our interactions, especially when the sparks start flying. Ian in Hammanskraal, good evening to you and welcome.
Hello, Cindy.
Hi.
Let's call a spade a spade. There was no racial about what happened in that incident. The poor white guy went to the black lady to ask that lady to do something about kids fighting. So that lady reacted in a way that he was seeking an attention. Even if you can see, after that white guy left, that black lady was still making a noise. So it is a disrespectful way of that lady to behave in such a manner. She was just doing it maybe for the sake of that, I'm black, let me just make a noise. They will say that guy is a racist. It's a pure disrespect, according to me, from that lady.
Jan, thanks so much in Hammanskraal. Of course, we're devoid of all the details as whether there was a provocation or not, but thanks for your call. Sibongile, hello to you.
Hi, Cindy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm still very much shocked. It's Sibongile van der Merwe from Benoni. When we like watching news with my husband. Yes, ndingavota ukuthi ngibe nomlungu dali as my husband.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just saying I'm very much disappointed because following on what the caller has just said, the previous caller, it was just uncalled for the lady to be that high and screaming and all that. Yes, to me, it looked as a racial issue, but at the same time, it was a matter of respecting each other as adults and parents. There was no need for all the noise and the shouting and the because I'm black and all that. I mean, really. Poor kids. Tomorrow they'll be together at schools, at preschools, blacks and whites. What did the white child learn today from her dad or from the other auntie? I mean, really, no. If you could see my grandchildren with their Van der Merwe Mkhulu, they love him so much. And what I hate the most is when we are in the township with Van der Merwe, we blacks, we happen to acknowledge and admire. Black people love to see a white man in a township, but 99.9% you get the opposite out of them.
Certainly, Sibongile siyabonga kakhulu calling us from Benoni. It has just renewed my faith in the Rainbow Nation, or at least a semblance thereof. Just taking reactions, in terms of how herself as a blended family, married to a white Afrikaner male, and the reaction that society generally has. Love has no color. We say that these human rights are enshrined for everybody in terms of basic dignity and all the other amenities. Why is it, in some cases, Derke and Utapelo, is it difficult to demonstrate and appreciate other people's rights without encroaching on them?
It's a difficult one. I traditionally come from a family that are quite conservative, and when I made the decision to tell them that I was marrying an Indian lady as my first wife, ex-wife now, it completely shook things up. But I think it was a good thing, because it changed people's perceptions on what this family unit means, you know. And I mean, growing up in South Africa, I mean, when I was in school, we welcomed the first sort of integrated kids into my primary school, you know, and we grew up black and white within the classes. So you'll find that people that are in my age group and maybe younger have got no problem with the integration sort of thing. It's the older generation that we still need to educate. And I don't know, I mean, if Tupelo can sort of corroborate with that, but...
Yeah, do statistics show that, you know, we're more predisposed based on the experiences and harboring the past, etc., in how not only do we rear our children, but also how we interact in public spaces?
Certainly, we are. And research also demonstrates that the way that we are raised influences the way we behave. And people are normally and generally afraid of difference or something that is different. And something that is different, we want to other it, and we want to categorize it and put it there. And it's there in the box. So we don't want to associate ourselves with anything that is different. And that is our perception, that is our reality in South Africa, because we have not embraced the Ubuntu, we have not embraced the Rainbow Nation, which I think for me does not really exist in reality.
Yeah. All right, let's take another caller. Miss Naidu. Sorry, I didn't get your first name. Good evening to you and welcome to ANN7. What's your question or comment?
Hello.
Hi, Miss Naidu.
I just wanted to know, how do people make this racial? Because we have incidents where I was at a shopping mall with my mother. I'm Indian. I was bullied, and my mom was bullied by a black woman. But we take it as it was a black woman. That was just treated and decided to bully my mom, which is elderly. So how do we, instance like this,
Yeah, sorry, Mrs. Naidu, your line is terrible, but I think I get the gist of it. That how do you decipher whether it is a racial attack as opposed to it just being a bigotry or, you know, somebody just acting irrationally? We'll get our panelists to respond to that. And the other caller, I'm afraid I lost your name there. Good evening to you and welcome to the show.
Hi, Cindy, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
It's Neo from the south as well.
Hello, Neo, welcome.
Okay. I normally go to the Glen Spurs. First and foremost, on the waitresses, 99.8% are foreigners there. So hence they were so scared because of 99.9% are Zimbabweans. So they can't touch anybody because of they're not supposed to be there. Point number 2, on the video, we saw a man. He's the one that stood up and left his table and approached the ladies' table. So automatically it means he was prepared to go and fight that woman. And he's the one that's still pointing fingers at that woman. He's the one still saying, I'm going to clap you. Automatically you are emotional. You are a woman. You get upset in front of your child. You need to protect your child and show your child that you are there to protect that particular child. Because of now the bully is stooding up in front of the child and saying to your mother, I'll clap you out. So automatically it was a situation of emotional and disrespect of a child and a mother.
And now, just your experience, sorry, now that you've mentioned you in the South and at the Glen, have you had or observed any other racial incidents that you could argue that they're based on the prejudice or that it wasn't necessarily just incitement, but it actually had to do with deep-rooted hatred of the other race?
I want to be honest with you. In the South, there's a lot of racism. Based on the fact, even when you sit there, you can even see how the whites sit on the other side and the blacks sit on the other side. Whether you like it or not, I don't even go there anymore because you don't feel as if you're in a restaurant to enjoy your money. So hence I'm saying that man has got both of it.
Yeah.
He's also racist and he's also a bully.
All right, thanks so much for your call and all the callers as well. Let's just start But Mrs. Naidu, I think that's the difficulty we're having in that where do you call it outright racism? And we know that we're told that South Africa doesn't have a racist bone in them as a people. But just your reaction, Dirk, and also primarily the role of social media in venting out these kind of issues.
Yeah, so it's a difficult one. You know, racism is racism. It's whether it's, if we're talking tribally and we're talking culture, you know, tribalism, so the Zulus and the Xhosas, for example, can be considered racism. Indian, white, black. If it's taking on somebody with lack of knowledge and bigotry, we can call it racism. As far as social media, I think we can be very glad that social media is around, because these sort of things come to the forefront. We see it happening, and now we have to react. And it forces brands as well to say, okay, hold on, now we've got to take accountability for something that happened in our restaurants. You know, so we can use it as an opportunity to start conversations like we're having now to say, how do we stop it?
Yeah, but I mean, you know, God forbid that the public spaces have now become sort of an arena where people will express their own convoluted or skewed views in terms of who's got the right to occupy a particular space, whether either would call it a black victim mentality or whether it's white supremacy. You know, we wouldn't want public spaces to now be an arena where this plays out. But how do you manage, again, the frustrations and the hurt and the woundedness that one of the callers was referring to?
The issue is not about how we express ourselves on social media. The issue is about how we express ourselves in our daily lives, how we interact with each other in our workplace, in our schools, every day. It's about how I relate with Dirk when I see him now. Do I see him as a foreigner, as a person who stole my land? Do I see him as a person with money, the capitalist monopoly kind of situation? It's more of how do we package ourselves and how do we teach ourselves as human beings to say we do have differences, and how do we embody that differences to be united and to be one person.
Yeah, but in the same breath, yeah, sorry, Thapa, in dealing with that very, you know, the triple social injustices in terms of inequality, poverty, and unemployment, that when we talk about these, obviously issues of the past will come in, colonialism, etc. Why are we still so ill at ease in accepting that there were atrocities of the past? And for us to meaningfully redress those issues, we're going to have to look at the income and rather wealth disparities that maybe from a wide perspective. I had to do that, didn't I?
No, it's completely fine. And I think speaking, you know, listening to the second caller there, talking about the south of Joburg, I grew up in the south of Joburg. I lived in Rosettenville for 20 years, okay? I don't believe that the racism, as the caller said, in the south is any different to anywhere else. You know, I mean, where we lived, it was a very mixed community, but everybody got on. You know, it wasn't a case of, well, I hate this person. That never happened. I think we need to stop hiding behind the veil of apartheid. And I think whites and blacks do this. We say, oh, well, it happened because of apartheid, so now I have to deal with it. What we've got to understand is that apartheid was a problem, and it was a disgusting thing that happened in this country. But we've now moved beyond that. The only way we're going to move beyond that is having open dialogue between each other, saying, this is my view, that's your view, and that's okay.
Yeah, and you as a black person, do you feel that apartheid is something that we can just, you know, bury under the carpet and move right along?
No, it's not, because it exists and it existed. It's something that it's our memory. Sure. But we should not live on our memories, because the more we live on our memories, the more we perpetuate the hatred, the more we want revenge. And I think our problem is we haven't really healed, and we want that space to heal and to reconcile ourselves and our woundedness. And I do love that Kwala who said we are wounded, and part of that is because of this distribution of land and resources is not equal. And until we get to that space.
Yeah. Tapelo.